Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Essential Zodiac Podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia McNulty.
And I'm Audrey Fannin.
We have a very, very special episode today. Before we get into our episode, though, I want to briefly mention the Uranus North Node conjunction that begins today, July 29th, and goes through August. I have a blog post about it, so if you go to my website, go to Skye Watch Journal, it's going to be the first article, and you can read all about it and see how this energy is going to affect us. What I will say about this energy is this is a unique alignment. We haven't had one like this per se. So all the astrologers were kind of speculating as to what is going to happen. So we're all involved in the mystery this time. So it should prove interesting. So, okay, we're going to talk about energy today. I talk about energy a lot. And I thought it would be informative to explain exactly what I am talking about. And to do that, to help me with this, I've invited a very dear friend and colleague, Skye Bradshaw. Skye and I have known each other a long time. And after my high priestess, she is the next person I would go to for spiritual guidance. But before we listen to some wise words from Skye, let's talk energy. So energy comprises everything. Everything you see, feel, and hear. When magical folks perform magic, we are using energy to manifest what we want. In order to properly raise enough energy to do the work we need to do, it is helpful to understand how your personal power works. So it's not like, you just snap your fingers and something is going to happen.
If only it was that easy.
It's not bewitched, wiggling our nose or snapping our fingers. It's training. Everything worthwhile, starts somewhere, right? You need the foundation. So we are trained on how to use that energy to manifest our goals and at the same time, not harming other people. I like to think of the world as a coin. There are two sides. Science tells us that when you look close enough, everything is made of energy. We are. Our atoms in our body, our cells, that's all energy. We are made up of energy. We are energetic people. So non-physical energy, our thoughts, attitude, that's non-physical energy. So that is also part of the manipulation that magical people are trained to do what we need to do our work. And let's talk a little bit about harming none and karma. It's called the law of attraction. And it makes sense if you think about it. If you're always crying the blues and being negative and pessimistic, that's the kind of energy that's going to seek you out. If you're optimistic and kind and generous and loving, positive energy is going to seek you out. So, it's very simple. What you give, you're going to get. We have all seen karma in action. Think about it, think about, different people and different things that happened in their life, and you'll be like, oh, okay. So now, when we talk about astrology, those planetary bodies up in the universe are interacting with our energetic bodies here on Earth. And I'll give you a very simple and recognizable example is the tides. The moon affects the tides. The moon affects the water, the oceans. Well, we are like 70% water. So trust, the moon is going to affect us. My brother is a doctor, And he works in the emergency room, like as needed. And I have to send him every year the new and full moons, because if he gets called in and it's a full moon, he knows it's going to be a very, very crazy, hectic night. And of course, he tries to tell all his people, my sister said, but, some believe him, some don't. But he firsthand has seen that. And so I've talked to police officers. They're the same way. They report strange events during the full moon.
So that's another great way to use astrology, is to be prepared on the job.
Yes, exactly. So any of you doctors, nurses, EMTs, firefighters, policemen, get in touch. I'll send you, the list of full moons for the year, and, you can prepare yourself. That's a great point, Audrey. Thank you. So within our body and around our body, we have an aura that is like the skin of our energy. And within the aura we have these networks of energy centers. Maybe some of you have heard of them, the 7 chakras. And I'm going to let Skye get into that a little bit more in depth. But these energy centers are like wheels of energy. And we identify certain colors with the chakras, and that helps us to balance them if we have an imbalance in our body. But let's take a moment. We'll let all that information sink in, and when we return, I'm going to hand everything over to Skye.
Visit EssentialZodiac.com to learn more about Cindy and her many services to help you connect to and use the energy of the stars. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to her monthly Skye Watch Journal and consider becoming a patron of this podcast. The benefits vary by patron level, from the private discussion group at the star level to a shout out at the end of each episode at the galaxy level. Just click on the red Become a Patron link on the website for details. Now back to you, Cindy.
Thank you, Audrey. So, to learn more about her approach to energy, I'm turning this over to Skye. Skye is a full-time spiritual advisor, Reiki master teacher, textile artist, coach, and Mambo Asagwe, tapping into her gifts to provide intuitive tarot, healing energy work, workshops, spiritual group connections, and more. And this is a way for Skye to help create balance and healing for everyone. With 30 plus years experience in divination and a lifelong journey of intuitive spirit experiences, Skye connects to each soul personally for their highest good, believing deeply that when the one is strengthened, the sum is empowered, lifts the individual soul and all things to it. This allows for personal growth, communication, and universal empowerment. Check out her website at Tarot by Skye to check out her many services. You won't be disappointed, trust me. So welcome, Skye, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here. And I love what you said about energy. Energy is in all things, and all things is energy. One of the reasons why that can be really powerful for us as creatures on the planet is that law of attraction, or the rule that energy magnetizes. Like energy attracts like energy. So our energy goes where our attention flows. And so as we tune in that way, we can use that for our advantage, so to say, by recognizing that if we are in tune with ourselves, if we understand and know how our own body's energy works, then we can really empower ourselves to live that highest and best good of the self. So I'll go into those chakras a little bit that you talked about, and the kind of flow of energy. But the first thing that I want to talk about is we are a soul living in a physical body that has emotional experiences. And it is
That
those
is
trilogy
so,
bodies.
yes, that is
It's
so true. Yes, you have
right.
said that. You have said that before, and it's like one of those eureka moments. Excellent.
Right.
Yes.
And we do physical things to help our physical body, like eat right or exercise. And a lot of times we do emotional things to help our emotional body, like go to therapy or talk about our emotions. But we don't tune in nearly as much as we should to that energetic body that says, what does my soul need today? Like, what have I done to support my energy self? How have I tuned into the energy flow of my body and allow for it to be clean and clear and whole and balanced and in tune? And so, really, that's where I like to focus with people. I like to tune into that education and understanding because it's natural. We are a trilogy. We're an energy body, a physical body, an emotional body that creates the whole being. And so by tuning into that, having a little bit of understanding is good. Having a lot is great. Having true understanding of self is awesome.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I'll just brush over and then we can kind of talk energy after that, like the energy systems. I like to consider the aura the cat's whiskers. So whenever we walk into a room, our aura is the energy flow using that universal energy up and through the body system, creating a big, beautiful bubble of energy around ourselves. And that cat's whiskers lets us know whether we like a room or don't like a room, whether we feel safe or don't feel safe. It's that first little impression of what our energy thinks about a situation. And then we do have the chakra system, and there are thousands of chakras throughout the body. I focus on the major 8 most of the time: red root, orange sacral, yellow solar plexus, green heart, blue throat, indigo third eye, violet crown, and translucent seat of the soul. And they each tune into a particular job within the body that allows for that wholeness to come to play. So safety and security and emotional processing and love and communication and insight, understanding, and knowledge, connectivity to all energies, and connectivity to a greater whole. And as that energy comes up and through those chakra systems, the chakras are like the batteries. They're what keeps the energy flowing cleanly and clearly and charged. So whenever you hear somebody say, oh, my second chakra is blocked, it means that it's not flowing as cleanly and clearly. My saying here is always like, clean pipes, clear flow; clogged pipes, slow flow. And so by keeping that work done within ourselves, we have a cleaner, clearer system. But why does that matter, right? Because, all these buzzwords and meme mentality of like, here's what you need to know: keep your chakras clear. Why? Well, when we talk about vibration or frequency, that's the rate at which energy can move through the body. And the higher the vibration, the more in tune with ourselves we are. The slower the vibration, the more off kilter we feel. And so when we say we have the energy to do that, it usually is because there's a clean, clear flow in our system versus the energy having to work harder to make its way through in order to get to the spaces that it's meant. And of course, energy isn't linear. Nothing really in nature is linear. But
that's true.
But we have to think of it along those lines in order to create like a higher space. So that's my information as far as energy goes. But it's important in my personal belief to tune into that energy, because if we are feeling stuck in a certain area, then usually that's an indicator that, if we repeat this cycle in life and we, repeat this cycle over and over, it's likely because the energy is patterned into that space to repeat the cycle. And so by focusing in a different way and opening our energies up to something more positive, then that allows us to redirect and change the cycle and tune into ourselves in a better way.
Right. When you repeatedly do something that gives you a negative return on investment, all the time. It's really time to stop and think about the life choices you're making. And, either, go to therapy, go talk to your spiritual guide,
Go visit
because you
Skye.
need to, pardon?
Go visit Skye.
Yes, go visit Skye, because you need to unclog. Just to interrupt Skye for a second here, a couple years ago, our family went through, for about 18 months, a really rough time. My husband lost his sister, his father, and his nephew within a short period of time. And it seemed like, we were just getting our equilibrium after one death, and then another one came upon us. And especially his sister and nephew was completely unexpected, Not that I wanted my father-in-law gone, but he was in his 90s, so, you think, our time together is precious. So that's a lot for one person to manage. And I told my husband, I told Jay, go see Skye. Because his pipes were clogged. And, through no fault of his own. I mean, he had some very, very, very sad and heavy things happening. And he was, very close to his sister. The two of them were like, peas in a pod growing up. And we all lived together for a while when our kids were very young. So that one especially really ripped him up. So first of all, thank you for unclogging him. And, if you are feeling, even if you just had a bad week at work, go see Skye, because you'll have a better weekend. So, sorry to interrupt. There you go.
No, it's good. And the reason for that, I try to work with the body's own natural energy, using that universal flow through the system to allow for that to come to what I consider like your natural neutral energy. We all have a vibration, but if during our life experiences, we have two backpacks, and one is heavy rocks. Every time we go through something difficult, we pick up a heavy rock. And the other one's helium balloons. Every time something awesome happens, we have a helium balloon. We're going to feel those rocks. We're going to feel the weight of that and kind of start walking crooked, carrying it in that way. And we don't need to know that, fire is hot 1,000 times. My joke here is I always tell people, like, it's not the one time somebody hurt your feelings. It's the 1,000 times you checked on Facebook to make sure it was true. That's the challenge.
Right.
And so you might want the lesson of the one energy. I don't want to, I want to pay attention to red flags, but we don't need, humans are the only self-sabotaging creatures on the planet. If a bird sees a red berry, it's like, red berries are poisonous. I don't have to taste that to try. If I'm like, oh, this tastes horrible, try it. Like, you're going to taste it and be like, oh, you're right, it's disgusting. And so like, we know that is part of human nature. And so by laying down those extra fortifications or validations of the lesson, then we don't have to carry all of that weight. We just get the fire is hot once, dark alleys are dangerous once, red flags we should trust once. And we don't have to create what I call compulsive energy, that is recycled energy. I have a bad feeling, I think about the bad feeling, I research the bad feeling and fortify the bad feeling, I justify the bad feeling, and we recycle it through the system over and over, instead of just going like, you know what, me not liking this is enough. I can just say I don't like it and I don't want to engage. That's good. And then trusting ourselves in that way. And whenever we have cleaner, clearer energy, we're allowed to trust ourselves in a better way.
Yeah, I think when we feel a confidence, when we feel right in our skin, we're able to take care of ourselves too, and set the boundaries that need to be set. I've heard this a million times. No is a complete sentence.
Right.
And I know for myself, I would always over explain a situation. Okay, so I don't want to I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disappoint you. So I need 20 minutes to explain to you why I'm going to disappoint you. And, you know, that is unhealthy.
It's exhausting.
Of course you want to be, have manners and be civil and gracious and everything. But no thank you is, perfectly, it's all you need. It's all you need.
And that goes in with one of our universal energetic lessons that we're learning right now, which I consider a divine feminine message. And I kind of token it as the original question. So a lot of times we reply, respond, react. We're doing a lot of that, like dancing to get to where we actually feel, because we feel the need to validate. We feel the need to explain or over explain. We feel the need to kind of like put something in this, fluffy container so it doesn't hurt someone else, when most of the time the choices that we're making are our own original choices. And so we're not hurting someone by taking care of ourselves. We're not harming someone else by making a good choice for ourselves. And so we don't have to validate in that way. And the little example I always use is like, if someone calls and says, hey, do you want to go to Italian food for dinner? We usually think, do I want Italian food? We don't go to the original question. The original question is, do I want to go to dinner? And you might want to go to dinner, or you might not want to go to dinner. But we're so tricked into replying, responding, like giving that person what they're looking for, that it takes us out of our energy. So we're working outside of our own energy and someone else's needs and wants, instead of starting in our center energy, which says, how do I feel about this? What do I want? Where does that belong? And then we can make appropriate choice and decision. We can make appropriate emotional connection, appropriate physical connection to be able to say, like, okay, now I know where I stand. Now I know where I am. I know where I'm willing to compromise, where I'm willing to sacrifice, and where I have to say no. But if we start out in that outer response sort of position, then we're taking a half step to the left from our center at the very beginning. So why we find ourselves off course isn't confusing, because we start off course and then we continue in replying, responding, reacting off course over and over again. And, it sounds like humanity is like totally lost by the way I explain things, but the other side, there's a shadow and light to everything. The other side of that is when we use energy in a way that is whole and healthy and organic and original to ourselves, it's when it can expand into its greatness. So if I decide to start making the original choice, what happens is there's less conflict coming my way, because I'm not on someone else's path or in someone else's energy. I'm in my own center, and that self-trust allows me to be exposed to better things. If, when we talk about positive and negative, I don't see positive and negative as like right or wrong or good or bad. It's just like, does it line with me or does it not line with me? And like, how do I make those choices in a non-judgmental way? Because energy is not judgmental. It just is.
Yeah, and energy is just energy.
It's just energy. And so like, if I can take that aspect out of it, then I know like true positivity is stuff happens and I have the solution and the ability to be able to create change, versus like, I can't hear you, nothing bad is happening. That's false positivity and denial. And so when we stay in that true center, that true positivity, we feel empowered enough to say, I maybe didn't like it, but I have 5 choices I can make to get myself either to liking it or to walk away from it. Like there's a lot here. And it's hardy when we look at it like that. Instead of feeling it's happening to us, it's really more coming from us and how we tune in that way. Sorry, I could talk about energy all day.
No, that was excellent.
That was a great explanation.
But why don't you also, Skye, because I have a set, talk about your oracle cards.
Sure.
Your Art of Energy. These are a personal plug. These are awesome. I use these like at least 5-6 times a week. And Skye and a friend of hers developed these, but I'll let her explain them to you. But they're awesome. So.
Sure, thank you. So, sometimes I like to start at the beginning. Sometimes I like to start in the middle. I'm going to start at the beginning this time with the Art of Energy cards. So, originally, there's a soul healing energy technique that I do that's called the Grove. And the Grove works with those deeper energies to help repath and repattern those, the things that have gone askew. And from there, people kept saying, like, I wish that there was something that that could help me stay on the right path. I wish that there was something. And so from there, we went to Love Church. And Love Church used to be bi-weekly in person, and now it's weekly online. There's a private Facebook group, and we do Love Church every week. That's just little talks like this that help people stay doing their own work, because I'm a big proponent of doing your own work. And then from Love Church, I went into this energy course, and it's called Understanding Energy in Action. And that course is actually online now. So there's 26 modules with lectures and everything, worksheets, meditations, all kinds of stuff. And so you can go through that.
That sounds awesome. I might have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a pretty, really, really full and hearty course. And then from there, Amy Gordon, who's an amazing abstract artist, she was here one day having a reading, and we were chatting afterwards, and she was just like, I really would love to do oracle cards. And I was like, I already have the book written. Like, this is like done. Like, I have been working on this, and I didn't know where it was going to land, but I just listen to spirit, and whatever comes up, I just like do it. And so I had probably 50% of this book written, and that's the Art of Energy Healing Oracle deck set. And what makes it original and beautiful and amazing, other than her abstract art, which each card has its own piece of art, it also has its own awareness that tells you what to tune into in your energy field, but they align with the chakra system. So like boundaries in your root chakra is different from boundaries in your heart chakra, is different from boundaries in your third eye. And so each card comes forward with that different awareness, looking at the different chakras and what we call 7 human conditions, like boundaries, self-love, those sorts of things. And so the cards are really full, and you can use them in a lot of ways. You can journal with them, pull them to know what you need to know for the day. If you're going through a challenge, look at that. It really was, just a child of spirit. We were just the surrogates of it, but it really came out to be a full and beautiful and whole deck that's actionable. You go to the workbook, and the workbook doesn't just say like, pay attention to your learned behaviors. It tells you what to do in order to create an exercise, a daily exercise to overcome following learned behavior versus following organic choice. And so it's really
that's
beautiful.
Definitely the one thing I like about that, because sometimes you'll get a deck or whatever, and it's like, okay, yes, I know what you're saying here, but what do I do about it? How do I fix it? So there's like an avenue when you pull the card, or you do a spread for yourself, or however you want to use the cards, because there's many combinations, but you also get an answer to your question, or at least a path to put yourself on to get the answer to your question.
Yeah, an energy exercise that says like, pay attention here, like, do this little thing every day, or do this when that comes up for you, and see what happens. And, and so it really, to me, like, we've gotten such great feedback from these cards, and to create something, and I'm a creator, obviously, but, to create something that serves its purpose so beautifully, just like brings like gratitude and love in my heart in a way that is just hard to explain.
Well, it's almost like you put your little child out in the world, and everybody loves your little child, because I mean, you and Amy did birth this this deck, if you want to be, metaphorically, right? So I tell everybody about it. I tell my clients about it. I'm like, you really need to get this, So hopefully they're listening. So you guys out there, trust me, get this deck.
It really is. It's a great compliment to like the self work, because, we can, as healers, you and I both know, like as healers, there's a Haitian saying that says, God says, meet me halfway and I'll see you there. So we can only do so much without someone contributing to their own well-being. Like, there's no magic fix, like you said. Like, I can clear out your energy, but if you're going to go make the same mistakes over and over again, like, I'm just going to, it's just cleaning out the pipes all the time when you're, shoveling junk down them. And so like, that's what the cards I think are really good for, which is like, sometimes we don't know what we don't know until we know it. And so
exactly. This, like I said, this at least points you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yes. Very cool. Well, that was awesome. It was really awesome.
I'm so grateful that I got to be here, guys.
I have a list of people, and you were right on the top, because I'm like, you're doing such great work out there. And, that's what we all try to do. And, Skye's certainly a front runner in trying to help our community, because there's limited resources for people who think differently or whose bodies work differently. So Mike Oven and Skye, we try to kind of fill in what is lacking. And like I said, you can go check out Skye's website, www.tarotbyskye.com. That has all her information, the deck, the classes, everything is on there. If you have questions, you can email her off her site as well, and she will answer you. So thank you again.
Thank you, Skye.
Thank you so much. I'm so
love
grateful.
you all. Love you.
Love you.
Well, that is our show for today. Our next episode is going to be on August 12th, and it's going to be the full moon in Aquarius. So that should be a very good episode as well. So thank you, everybody out there, for listening. And remember, you can chart your life through astrology.
Thanks for joining us and our special guest, Skye Bradshaw of Tarot by Skye. You can find the Essential Zodiac podcast on your favorite podcast sites. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and of course at essentialzodiac.com. We hope you'll like, share, and follow our podcast. And if you have a question for Cindy or a topic you'd like her to discuss on the podcast, send an email to ezpodcast@yahoo.com. That's the letter E, the letter Z, podcast@yahoo.com. The Essential Zodiac podcast is produced at Muddy Creek Studios.